All right, here we go. TekTox is rolling. All right, we're going to be going over um, advancements in gaming, like games that kind of set the trend and jump-started things and kind of revolutionized how gaming is seen and done. We're lacking a couple of people this week. Our British team went out and partied a little too hard yesterday, and now they're both out of it. And I'm joined by the one and only bald Tom Cruise. Not Tom Cruise, but Wolf over here.
Motherfucker.
Well, you kind of did it to yourself. You set yourself up for this. You get that
I'm just
side
try-
profile shot, and it looks just like him enough that for me to say something to you.
I got a letter from my hair saying, "Hey, I'm packing up and leaving you in a few years." I just cut to the chase, cut it out of my life. Sometimes it's better to commit, you know? I don't want to be the comb over guy. I
Don't
might
want.
become the Rogaine guy, but I don't want to be the comb over guy.
All right. Well, since our producer, the one of the jacked up Brits who made a mess of himself partying yesterday, the one and only Costin has sent me his opinions and thoughts, so I've got that at least. So we've got the two of us plus what he sent me, so maybe we can make this a functioning show. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start this off with some of what he sent us. Um, Two newer entries on the block of as far as gaming goes, and newer because, well, if you look at the era of gaming, it's been active for 40 years.
50?
I don't know. When did we really count the gaming as starting? The 80s?
When arcades became a thing.
Oh, that was, yeah, that's way back. So, what I've got from him, excuse me.
Arcades are arguably the first pay to win.
Yeah, I guess arguably you could definitely say they are the first pay to win.
Then we dropped the pay to win for a long time and it became time commitment to win.
Time commitment to win, yeah. Oh, this is
'Cause in
interesting.
arcade, it was both. It was both time commitment and pay to win.
Yep. Well, according to what Costin sent me, here's two of his takes that um, have advanced gaming and kind of gotten us going in another direction. One is Cyberpunk 2077 was a great advancement in 2020 and showed how games can look using new technologies. Unfortunately, it was optimization that let it down, according to him. I would have to agree that it did it did give you all these other options, but and it was it uh I'm missing words, but it did suffer from the fact of there was a lot going on and getting all of it to work properly without bugs and the proper optimization was a thing that kind of hurt it a lot.
I never played the game. I've seen a little bit of it, but it's just not my style of game. So I got no opinions on it one way or the other.
I will say from everything I've seen, because I haven't played it either, but everything I've seen, heard, a lot of the bugs and some of the optimization definitely hurt, and it kept getting behind in production, and they had to cut content to get it to work the way they wanted, and that bit them, I think.
Going back in time, the game that I think, or that in watching a bunch of developer conferences that I found apparently revolutionized a little bit was Crash Bandicoot. Back on the PlayStation 1, the first Crash Bandicoot, the way they wanted to do the levels, the way they had so many different level types, like uh, themes, areas,
Oh, okay, yeah.
tropical versus underground, what have you. They had all these assets to be able to fit on a CD and have them all load per level because somebody on the Naughty Dog team, I forget who and I forget exactly what, but with the knowledge of the architecture of the PS's hardware, were able to like reallocate RAM mid level.
Oh, really?
So you could load way more assets on each level than most other games could because they were unloading and reloading. They were cheating the system's hardware to be able to get the game to do more. And that's how Crash Bandicoot had those long levels that were so, I mean, they were filled with so many props, which made them look so much better than competitors at the time.
That's interesting. I never knew that. But yeah.
Because I would, I mean, you could probably argue this, but I would say a cousin to Spyro, or the cousin to Crash is Spyro, because they were both PlayStation games of equal popularity
Yep.
at the same time. And Spyro was a good game. It was a fun game. I really like it. But when you look at the graphics fidelity of them both, even though Spyro had its style, when you go back and you play the original game and you look at it, it was very bare bones. All the levels were huge, but they didn't have a whole lot going on. You look at the Crash Bandicoot levels, and they've got a lot of stuff everywhere, and that's because they were able to cheat the architecture to load all those and unload all those as you go through the levels.
And I bet once other people figured out how to do that, you're now able to load so much more stuff. Everything looks better now.
Yeah, I think trash collection is much more efficient these days than it used to be. Talking about software programming trash collection. So as you build up stuff in the RAM, you get rid of what you don't need so you can load more new stuff in.
Yep. Purge the old so there's room for the new. Yep.
What's
Um,
next?
I've got another one Costin sent me, and this one I was going to try to argue with, but I'm like, there is an argument I can make against this, but also for it. So I both agree and disagree with this one, and that is Fortnite. Um, here's what he literally wrote: Fortnite has to be mentioned because of the way it paved the way for FTP games and battle royales. Without it, we wouldn't really have games moving to a FTP model such as PUBG or having other battle royales like Apex. I will definitely say that I do have to agree that Fortnite is definitely responsible for the current style and trending of battle royales right now.
I would
Although
argue this one.
I would also say that PUBG is also the reason for it. And I'm
That's
like,
what I
well,
was going to
which
argue.
one released when? And they both came out the same year. They were both released in 2017. So I think I guess the argument can be made it's on both of them because there's elements of one and the other that a lot of newer battle royales definitely are doing. Um, and
Our,
you've got uh, Fortnite's crafting system where you can craft buildings and things. Well, other people took the idea of being able to craft and like Apex, you can upgrade weapons, you can manufacture other things to help you. And in PUBG, you've got the go search and find loot, which so does Fortnite, but Fortnite is like, oh, here's the one thing you got to find. Here's your gun with everything on it. In PUBG, it's here's the gun, here's the attachments, here's the ammo. Go find every individual piece to assemble and load it out how you want.
in
So,
terms of like advancements and revolutionizing, I remember watching something way back when, a long time ago. A team of developers wanted to make the biggest multiplayer game, and they wanted it to be something like 60 players, 64 players, 32 on 32 is going to be like a mech arena.
back then
I
that was
never
huge.
I never saw that game happen, but eventually, way later, well after World of Warcraft and all those MMOs, came PUBG and Fortnite. I think Fortnite did a good job, and one thing is they had the infrastructure and the servers behind their game to make
Yep.
it a smooth, pleasant experience. I haven't played it, but I've seen it,
Yep.
and I've played personally PUBG, which I don't know how it plays now. But back in the day, it
Oh,
was
back when I
a
played it was still
laggy,
beta.
awful, buggy thing. Still fun to play, but it was laggy as all
There
get out.
And there was a different tone or theme to both those games. For PUBG, it was more serious. You had to do more searching to find stuff, and it gave the more feel of more of a survival shooter in many ways. I think of get your gear, try to survive as long as you can, take out the enemy. Versus Fortnite, it's got all these built-in like little things. Like they'll do events, so that you've got all these little special quests. You've got these special character skins you can get and develop. So I
Who was the
think
first game to introduce dailies?
I have no idea. Like daily quests and such?
Yeah, to get you to come online every day and do stuff. But now I know the first dailies I think I know of are WoW, but I think there was something before that.
Google says.
Because now half the mobile games that you can download have a daily and at least open up the
Or
game and
like a
get something.
login bonus or something like that. Let's see. It's got to be the early years. I'm not really sure when that first was. But speaking of World of Warcraft, I would definitely say, and I mentioned this before we started recording, is that I would definitely put World of Warcraft up on one of those advancements and trendsetters because it kind of set the tone for how MMORPGs are and have become. Because there's a lot of stuff that you look at what's come out later and you can see the elements that you could trace back to how World of Warcraft was and did set everything up. So I would, because I think prior to World of Warcraft, anytime like you had the game and you wanted to do more, you just released a second game. With World of Warcraft, it's oh here's the next event season or patch that or expansion. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. Here's the next expansion. It's not a DLC. It's its whole own changeover. So it started doing that, which pretty much everybody does now.
Didn't
Somebody might have beat them to it,
EverQuest did
but
that? I think because I bought EverQuest once and it came with EverQuest plus like two other things on 7 CDs.
yeah, but were those DLCs or when they like released the expansion, it added more and then changed how the game was?
I never got very far in EverQuest, so I have no idea.
That'd be an interesting thing to learn. Um, but I don't know. I don't know about EverQuest. I just know that I think WoW may have World of Warcraft may have done it the most successful, which is what set the
Yeah,
tone in many ways.
I wrote a college essay on World of Warcraft and the popularity of it. I think part of it has to do with the fact that Blizzard as a company already had a solid IP. They had Diablo and StarCraft, which also had huge audiences. The fact that Blizzard themselves made the game is, I think, a huge chunk of why it became so popular. But the game did do a lot of things really well, and it paved the way for shit, the stuff that's yet to come, I hope.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely did change how MMORPGs are done.
But they introduced instancing.
Yeah.
So whenever you go into a dungeon or a raid, it's an instance of that dungeon or raid. So it's not open world. You're not competing with the whole everybody. You can't be fucked with while you're doing it. It's your own precious little instance.
Yep.
I don't think they're the first to do this, but a big thing that they did was not having loading screens.
Yeah. Well, you may have had they did have them like when you loaded into a new map zone or something like that.
And
They
when you
did.
go into an instance, you have to load, and when you go from the east island to the west island, you had to load. But between it,
Oh
both of
yeah, when
those
you're
whole
running
islands,
from zone to zone, yeah.
yeah,
Like you could.
you could run from the night elf place all the way down to the goblin.
Yep.
It's been so long, I can't remember their names.
The guy. There he is.
Tardrasil,
Oh, I
Teldrassil,
don't ask me.
to
Go.
Stranglethorn Vale.
Yeah, I think that was definitely a thing. I know you like if you transition to continents, it did load, but yeah, and
That
I
was
think
it.
that's in many ways you can take part of that from how Crash Bandicoot did, where you load what you need, and as you're moving, it loads the next part and unloads the other.
Yeah, if Crash Bandicoot never happened, would WoW have? That's a
Maybe,
philosophical
maybe just a different version
inquiry
of
for
it.
you.
Also, would have been a question of would somebody else have not figured it out later?
I think I want to go to something hardware because I really think Nintendo are heavy, heavy pioneers in revolutionizing gaming.
Yeah, I would definitely say that they've done a lot of stuff that's changed how it
As early
is.
as the 64, because the 64,
I think 64 was the first little
there's a couple of
had that
things that
wiggly
never,
button on it.
yeah, they had the joystick.
There
I
we go.
think they
Yeah.
were the first to have the joystick.
Hmm.
Their controller layout was a little wonky. I don't think there's anything super special about that other than having options to use a D-pad or the joystick. But
But
with
they
the
were
trigger
still
button,
pretty sure they were first one with the joystick and the trigger button too. I think they were the first ones to do that.
yeah, the position of the joystick and the trigger button made it almost useless to. Well, no, because you've got the L, so redact that last statement. But they did a couple of things with the 64 that I don't think ever caught on or became a thing, but were still interesting to try, and that was the memory pack in the actual console itself. So there's some games like if you put in StarCraft with the default pack in your game, you'd be playing StarCraft 1. And if you took that out and put in the little expansion pack that you needed in order to play certain games like Donkey Kong, you'd be playing StarCraft Brood War. I think.
Interesting. Well, I
I
know that
think. I
in
might have Mandela affected that into my head, and it's not true, but I think that was
I,
the case.
I know that one of the things Nintendo did is they built their hardware very efficient and durable. That's where the running thing of like just take it out, blow on it, shake it out, put it back in, and it works fine. Because it
Did
was like there was nothing like finicky about it. It was literally if it did work, it's probably because the contacts weren't getting good contacts. So blow the dust or whatever off, and then lock it back in, and you're good.
I'm just I'm thinking about all the things the
They were
64 did,
durable.
and it was really the 64 could connect to your Game Boy.
Yep, they made those interconnectable, and the
Your
Game
Game Boy
Boy
could
was
print
also
pictures. The Nintendo Game Boy, they had Pokemon Pinball, which had a Rumble pack. You
yep.
had
Well, if you just look at the a lot of the tech stuff that was available for the Game Boy, you had the miniature camera that you could get with it, so you could take pictures, and then the printer, so you could print stuff. You had uh, the Rumble Pack, which I think was the first handheld Rumble thing.
they had that for the 64 too. You could insert it in the controller,
Yep,
as well as additional memory cards. I think.
and other stuff. And I think you got a was it the N64 that you could like hook a microphone to do stuff with?
Yeah, because I have Hey You Pikachu, and I have the original microphone for it, and it's
Yep.
one of the few games that you cannot emulate because nobody has cracked the emulation part of the microphone to be able to give it meaningful input into the game.
Oh, really? Still
So
uncracked all these years later.
my copy of Hey You Pikachu is one of a dwindling amount of available copies that are actually playable. Makes me warm inside.
I still have my original Game Boy, and it still works.
Me too. I plugged in my old Pokemon, but yeah, the batteries at this day and age kaput. My save file is no more,
Mm,
and it can
yeah.
happen to you. Yeah, go plug in your old Pokemons and hope that you have a save file still, and go nostalgia. Go take in the nostalgia because it might be the last time you're able to.
Yeah.
But
Oh, there was
after
also the radio. You could hook a little miniature radio up to your Game Boy as well.
I haven't
And
heard of that one.
yeah, they did that for I think it was for the Game Boy Color. They had a little pack you could lock in and it was a miniature radio.
I feel like the 64, now that I think about it, did so much wonky yet cool stuff in tandem with the Game Boy that I think Nintendo was just like, look at all this new technology. Can we make it fun? Can we put it on the Game Boy?
How can we make that work with this?
And
And
then
now if you think about
Sega
it, what other handheld device after that really included a camera?
camera or your phone.
Yeah, it wasn't until literally you got cameras on cell phones that you had a handheld device that had a camera. Like a decade and a half after Nintendo did it.
Unless your handheld device was a camera.
Yeah, but then you couldn't play games on it.
Today you could play Doom on a camera.
You could play Doom on a calculator.
I think the 64 did so much cool wonky shit, and Sega was in such a competition with them that they're like, hey, let's put out the Dreamcast. And let's give it all this cool wonky shit. And I don't know why it flopped. My cousin had one and I thought it was cool. Maybe it was too expensive. Maybe there weren't enough games. I
It's
think it's
possible. It could have been a number of factors that trying to do too much at once in the device instead of having the device compatible with all the extra shit. I don't know.
I know Sega, I would call them a pioneer with the Game Gear
Yeah.
because Nintendo had the Game Boy, but that was its own platform for its own games with its own cartridges.
Yep.
The
It was
Sega Game
standalone.
Gear was literally the first version of the Switch. It just happened at a point in time where technology was so ass and batteries were so heavy and lasted so little that the thing cost as much as it cost to drive your car just to keep it running.
It was one of those. It was a little too ahead of its time, which has been what's doomed a few technologies
You start with the Game Gear, you insert 20 years of waiting, and at the end
and
you get the
technology.
Switch, and you get the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck is really just a fancy tablet with inputs, I think, but the Switch is a good argument.
Technology advancement, thanks to the others.
Oh, the PSP did it. The PSP did it too. I forgot about PSP.
Yeah.
That was a good platform.
Never
That was
had one.
before the Switch. Atrocity had one. It was his baby. It went everywhere with him. He had a protector on it that was so thick and so powerful, you probably could have dropped that into a volcano and fished it out to be okay.
He did not want anything happening to it, did he?
Nothing happened to it. Nothing ever happened to it.
It
Never
survived
left
better
his
than he
sight.
did. All right.
That's probably true.
Here's one that I found that I didn't think of, but I do have to agree with. The original Team Fortress.
The original.
Yeah, Team Fortress 1.
I've never played it. I've seen it, and I can't believe that's what it looked like.
Yeah, well, here. And the reason for it, I have to completely agree with. It set the stage for a team of players to work together as various different jobs to accomplish objectives in a first person shooter environment. I don't remember a game before that where you could pick different like jobs and specializations as a team to accomplish an objective as a co-op. Like as a single player, yeah, but not as a co-op game style or even a versus game style.
Well, Team Fortress came pretty early in the co-op times because pre-internet games, you're limited to console and arcade games, which max out at usually 4 players. Don't have internet.
Let's see, Team Fortress 1,
When did one release? I don't even know.
99.
Yeah, that's in the infant stages of internet gaming.
Yeah. And that just goes to show is like they started that. And even games today now are built along a lot of the same formula. Needless to say, the graphics are a lot better. They had like 9 different classes too, which is also amazing because most even after that, most did not have that many different classes to choose from. You were usually had like 4, maybe 5.
Thinking about the 90s,
Here's another one that you might remember. Wolfenstein 3D.
that came before Doom, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
It did. Yep. the
That
and
was was that the first
I think it was one
3D
of the
first person shooter?
I think it might have been. If it wasn't, it was pretty close to it. And one of the thing and
And they had a game environment with a 3D space, and they used sprites on points to render where everything is. You look at Skyrim and it's the same shit. It's just the sprites are not sprites; they're 3D models.
yep. Well, the other thing about Wolfenstein that set the formula for all shooters is the selection of weapons choices, methods of killing, and all of that.
They
So,
also put secrets. I
yep.
don't know if they're the first one to do secrets, but I've
In a
I like a
first-person
game.
shooter, I think they were. Yeah,
I like a game that has
the hidden rooms, the hidden
decent secrets and not
stuff.
like obvious secrets. You know, I think Easter eggs, good Easter eggs.
Yeah, not the ones that are impossible to find. That if you want to find them, you have to literally scour the entire thing searching for
Well, I will admit I have gone around a Doom map or two hitting every wall.
them. Yeah, no, I've seen some Easter eggs that are so well hidden that unless you literally
Well, I think there was one in
it's absolutely insane some of the combos you have to do to find some of this shit.
there was an Easter egg in San Andreas,
Probably. I
GTA San Andreas, where it was on top of the. I think there was a Statue of Liberty esque thing in there, and you go way inside. There's a hidden wall, and you look up, and there's a literal heart beating.
Oh, inside the statue?
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I know the first Halo had several Easter eggs in it. One of which was actually in your face, you just never noticed it. Um and that is on the shotgun. Whenever you did the reload animation, if you were to somehow stop the image as you're loading, you'll notice every shotgun shell has the emblem of like Dumbo's face.
Dumbo the elephant.
Yes. Every shotgun shell.
Why?
I have
What
no
game is
idea.
this?
This was Halo 1. I'm serious, it was
Oh,
the first Halo. Look up Halo 1 Easter eggs.
I'm not gonna lie. If I was on the team that made textures, I'd have been jealous of the dude that did. I'd be like, shit, I should have done something like that too.
It was
I'd be
just
like, wait, have you ever seen the bottom of Master Chief's boot? But
uh
there's
in
but there's something
multiplayer,
hidden there.
yes.
Oh,
Because then you can
that's
watch.
true. You do have vision of it in multiplayer.
Yep. Yeah, there's a couple little ones.
You got me thinking about the '90s, and one of the powerhouses, and we've already brought them up, of the '90s was Blizzard. I
Yeah, they
think
were
something
definitely
that they revolutionized in gaming would be the BattleNet.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
know that
here's another early one for you. And I didn't realize this till I started looking some of the stuff up. Um, Metroid was one of the first, if not I think the first to set up a save feature. Because I know in Mario Brothers there was no save option.
even Rayman, you had to write down a save code and type that code in to
Or
load
I
your
think it was
save
like a
game.
level code or something like that. Because I remember some games having that where you could make note of the level code and you could just jump to that level. But
Kind of like a cheaty save.
you had to write it down to make sure you
Yeah.
remembered it.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's a good one to
I did
put in there.
I
Good
completely
quality of
did
life.
not know it until it I was reading through this because I found some interesting ones.
Did you know that the BattleNet, when it first came out with Warcraft 2, was run off of a single computer? The
I'm not
entire
surprised.
the entire BattleNet was one computer because the way that they hooked up the P2P connections was, I think, somebody goes to create a game or join a game, and that single computer is just the conduit to get the two to link together. So that computer never had to process shit. It was the clients who processed all the stuff going on. The BattleNet computer just connected them.
It acted as your hub that everybody connected to be able to connect to each other.
The thing that I think made Blizzard stand out, that they did really smartly, really right, was when they came out with Diablo. Diablo joined the BattleNet. When they came out with StarCraft, StarCraft joined the BattleNet. And then when they came out with Warcraft 3, Warcraft 3 joined the BattleNet. So it didn't matter which game you were playing, you were on the BattleNet with everybody else playing all the other games. I think something like that is kind of like the brainchild to eventually becoming Steam, something like Steam.
Yeah. Oh, here's a very famous one that does deserve mention for a couple of reasons. The original Final Fantasy.
What did they do special other than keep their company alive?
Oh no, I'm talking about the first one.
Yeah, the first Final Fantasy was made because they were going bankrupt and it was going to be their Final Fantasy, right? That's what I've heard.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting, and it would make sense for the name.
And
um,
then it ended up being a success, and Square Enix didn't die, and they pumped out 20 more.
most of which have been successful. Most, not all of them. There were a few that had problems. Um, but it did a couple of things. One, it popularized that I can use words, I promise. Uh, the JRPG, which I would say is true. Um,
If are they the first ones to do that format?
I think they were,
That
yeah.
that battle against
Um,
pick the menus because that's Pokemon's format.
I think they were first to do the multi-platform or the multi-character thing, because Pokemon was always a 1v1. But with Final
I'm
Fantasy,
pretty
you
sure
had
Final
multiple
Fantasy came
characters.
out. Final Fantasy would have come out way before Pokemon did.
I think it did
But
too.
if they're the pioneers of JRPG, then that's huge because every game
Oh yeah, Final Fantasy
follows.
1 was 87.
Yeah, every game for 35 years we still use that same battle format 35 years later.
Hmm. You talk about someone who revolutionized and set the trend.
That's a
um,
big one. If it was Final Fantasy that did that first, that is yeah, everybody does it now.
yeah, well, one of the other things that, according to this, is they also deserve credit for helping develop the notion of skill trees, choosing character progression in certain areas, changing jobs of characters to develop new skills, which I will admit I believe was one of the very first ones that like had your different skill jobs and build it how you want your character to be. and then now that's standard for any RPG game that where you get a party of characters. So I would say definitely Final Fantasy does deserve mention for that because of all that. Oh, it was released in Japan in '87. It was released in the US in '90.
Who cares about that? 87 is.
Sufficiently early enough. Yeah. Um. Oh, this is one that I would agree with, although I've never actually played this game. Minecraft for the whole um build your own open world thing of just like here's a blank thing, go ham and build whatever you want, however you want.
It is the first ultimate sandbox.
It's not the first sandbox, but it is probably the definite first ultimate sandbox. I would, yeah. I think I saw a listing for one of the first games
And
that
that,
have an actual sandbox, and that was GTA 3.
it was a powerful, like, I played that game when it was an infant, and all you had was grass, dirt, sand, and colors. Colored wool, I think. I don't even know if it was wool or if it was just colored block, like red block. But even back in that infant stage, it was enough to make a whole lot. Now you can just spruce it up with all your little knickknacks and your bushes, your plants, your lanterns.
Your
Back in the
pets.
day, back in the day when it was nothing but colored blocks, it was still
Yeah,
an apt sandbox.
yeah, people love that game. Still do. Here's one that apparently made this the list I'm going off of for two different reasons. Um, and that is Tomb Raider.
Original?
Yeah. Um, the first reason is it broke the mold of instead of having to go rescue the damsel in distress, you are the damsel and you are certainly not in distress, as you are the. So it was one of the first ones with a female action hero in as your main character, essentially.
Metroid? Although Metroid was ambiguous for the longest
Yeah,
time.
they never
Like,
declared what Samus was. Wasn't until a lot later they declared, yeah, this is actually a female character. But one of the other things Tomb Raider did, it was a third person perspective.
over the shoulder.
Yeah, which I
It
didn't
wasn't.
realize that they were actually one of the first third person games.
Spyro and Crash were both third person. I can't remember.
Crash was not initially third person. They were I think the first Crash was like a platformer.
Oh, yeah. Well, they had multi-format. I never played the first one on PlayStation. I only played it because I got the remastered one.
Yeah, I
And
remember playing it, and it
yeah,
was
there
like a
was.
platformer.
I remember the first one had the bridge level, and the bridge level was straightforward, like most of the ones in two and three.
Yeah,
But three gets pretty advanced.
Spyro wasn't Spyro like top down almost, but at that slight angle.
Spyro is third person. It's just the camera angle lets you see a lot going on.
Yeah, actually, that would be a question. Spyro versus Tomb Raider. What was the release dates?
I'm pretty sure Tomb Raider is younger.
96. Spyro is 98. So
third
yeah,
person. Back way back then, because Jet Force Gemini was third person. Donkey Kong was third person. Mario 64 was third person.
Jet Force Gemini was 99.
When was Mario 64?
Mario 64. 96? Same time frame? See the exact release date.
Yeah, it's one thing because there. I mean, third person was such a thing that I kind of had to. It took me a while before I realized. Wait, I've never seen the Doom guy.
The original Metroid was actually 86. I think. Oh, the first Metroid, I think was. Oh, wait. Wait. We're not talking about Metroid. We're talking about Tomb Raider. I'm looking at the wrong game. I'm dumb. I'm dumb. Dumb.
Was GoldenEye first or third? The 007 games.
I
So I
don't.
want to say I can remember seeing your dude walking around, but I also want to say I remember being first person looking around. My memory's fuzzy on that one.
Defined. Here we go. First release. When the hell was this? 96. Yes. Uh. Okay, so it did come out after Mario 64 by like a few months.
Yeah, for how long it was in development, we can't.
Yeah, which one came into develop first? That's a whole different question. That's I have no earthly idea.
Oh, I have a fun little.
What you got?
I've been watching Diablo Immortal, and more people are coming to this piece of knowledge, or at least they're claiming that all of this pay to win stuff and microtransactions in games is all from a horse armor in, I think it was Oblivion.
In Oblivion?
I think so. That a horse armor in Oblivion was the first microtransaction for a game. Period. For a game that you own, you have everything, and then you can buy something to add to your game. But if you didn't pay for it, you wouldn't have in your game. More and
Yeah.
more people are saying that's the
First game with
first.
microtransactions was the horse armor in Oblivion for
So
$2.50.
so they're looking at new games that are claiming to cost you $100,000 to hit maximum potential.
Yep.
They're saying that it's all because of a stupid horse armor in Oblivion.
And it received mostly negative reactions at the time.
Yeah, why wouldn't it? Now people are used to it, and things are still causing negative reactions, but more and more gamers are getting older and have less time and more money and want to just, kick some ass because work is too stressful. So go
Now,
home,
I
kick
will
some
point
ass,
out
kick some ass.
there is a caveat to this. This is the first one done by a major publisher. I believe it was initially done by some other people and some smaller game companies.
Wouldn't shock me in the slightest.
Oh, 1990.
90.
Double Dragon 3, The Rosetta Stone, was infamous for its use of microtransactions to purchase items in the game.
But how?
Fuck if I know.
You gotta. You,
This is the
it's
internet.
90. That's 90. So, like, in order to buy an item for your game, you would have to send an envelope with money in it to the developer, and they'll send you a floppy disk
Here we
back.
go. It had Shops where players insert coins into arcade machines to purchase upgrades, power ups, health, weapons, special moves, and player characters.
So it's an arcade game exclusively?
What? I guess?
So you're just paying for leaderboards on a arcade block.
See. Was single player and multiplayer. Oh, it was not arcade. It was arcade, but also was available for the Commodore 64, DOS, Game Boy, Genesis, Atari. So, no, it was available for a bunch of different stuff, which is weird. I don't know how that would have worked.
I'm trying to think, what are the first games to allow or promote user generated content? So I know Warcraft 2 is going to be really early on that. I know Counter Strike Source came way later, but Counter Strike was the godfather to becoming Gary's mod, since there was modding available for Counter Strike, or for, what was for Half Life. Half Life became Counter Strike because somebody modded Half Life. So yeah, Counter Strike is originally user generated content, but I don't think that was like Half Life wasn't. Did they put out a creator kit for that? I don't even know this shit.
I don't remember. I'm trying to. I found an article. It really doesn't tell me shit. Um, Origins. UGC Origin. That's advertising. We don't care. And gaming. What does this say? Google search to pull up an article, which is giving me a spinny wheel of please wait. Of course. Don't you give me Minecraft as an example, because that ain't it. Oh, that doesn't tell me a damn thing. Okay. I don't know. I'm finding a lot of articles talking about uh why people are embracing it, why it's the future of this type of thing. It does not say anything about like who started it or where it started.
Yeah, Warcraft 2 came with the map editor. StarCraft came with a map editor. What else came with stuff to like enable you to edit and make your own thing?
Um
Because did Half Life have a creation kit?
Half-Life 2 did.
'Cause I'm pretty sure Counter Strike 1.6 came from Half Life original,
I
just
know
judging by the
Counter-Strike
graphics.
Source was like, yeah, here's this, everybody go wild.
Source used the Source engine, which I think Half Life 2 used.
Yeah.
But 1.6, I think, was originally a mod, or 1.6 was from 1, which was a mod for original Half Life.
I
I might be wrong
do
about
not
this, but I know one became the other.
I know there was a one of the few Star Wars RTS games that had kind of like a map maker content, like a sandbox mode, but it was for like making maps and environments. that was built into the game that wasn't like real. I guess I don't know what's your definition of user generated making your own shit. 'Cause it was kind of like a
User
sandbox mode.
generated content. I mean, you can make it for any game if you got the know how. That was I wanted quick redaction on last week for those who watch consistently. I said last week that I don't think Nexus Mods is the best place where somebody should go to learn to mod. That is learning to create mods. If you're going to learn to apply mods to game, Nexus Mods is absolutely a great place and maybe the only place to start.
Yeah. Well, the old modding group I was with isn't around anymore. I went looking for them after the fact, and it's sad that they're not around anymore. But that's where I learned about modding. Um,
But going back to the user generated stuff,
I
a
don't
lot of
know who the
games are
first one
moddable.
was. Yeah.
A lot of games are moddable, and a lot of devs are cool with their game being moddable. Like Skyrim
Oh yeah.
is moddable,
Oh yeah.
but originally did not have a creation kit, but they did put out a creation kit. Same with Fallout 4. Fallout 4 didn't have the creation kit for a long time. It was still moddable, but
People
there were
were
a
still
lot of
coming up with their own
things.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, there's stuff that's hard coded into the executable of the game that cannot be changed because the code of the game functions.
Very
It's
specifically.
a dependency,
Yeah.
and if it changes, things will break. So there's certain things that can't be changed until the developers put out a creation kit, which allows you to edit certain things that
Yeah.
are hard
And
coded
then
in the
there were
game.
ways that you could develop your own content, still maintaining those requirements. Mostly this was like you just created, changed your the skins of various things, or using like the map makers, you made the new map and then rewrote how things worked on the map.
Like I kind of want to place my bet on Warcraft 2
I honestly don't know. That'd be one of those we'd have to that would probably require some real research after the fact because I really don't know.
because nowadays I've never played the game. I've never watched the game. I only know about people talking about it. Apparently, Roblox is nothing but user generated content.
Yes.
It's just a platform for people to make their own whatever and invite people to play their whatever, which is brilliant on part of the developers. Their only overhead is, server
Servers and
maintenance.
maintaining everything. Yep.
They don't have to worry so much about a dev team or a dream team,
Yep.
the
Now,
idea guys.
I did find some other stuff that go back to the 90s for stuff. Um, Here's one you're probably familiar with: Metal Gear Solid.
I The only Metal Gear Solid I've played, and I'm sad to admit this because I would love to sit down and play it, is the first two levels. So you come in from the water into like a loading dock. You go up an elevator, and then you're on a snow area, and you have to sneak into the complex. I think that's the original Metal Gear Solid, and I only played it off a demo CD, so those are the only two levels
Oh
I've ever
yeah,
played.
the demo. That's another thing that isn't around anymore is the demos, CDs and such.
Well, it's not necessary because a lot of games put out their own demos. Like, for example, on Steam, they've got that option.
Yeah. There's a lot
Uh,
of games that
the
don't do
new,
that anymore.
the
Like
new,
the big stuff doesn't do it as much anymore.
the new RTS by is not Dreamhaven, Frost Giant. Frost Giant Studios Stormgate was just announced, and a lot of the StarCraft people are covering that this week.
Okay.
But I watched an interview with the developers who are the OG developers at Blizzard who left the company. The people who made the games fun before Activision stepped in. That's these people.
Okay.
And their model for this new RTS is they're going to have the first chapter of the campaign is free. Playing with people online on the ladder is free. every section of their game that appeals to the different players is going to be free, but to unlock the full potential of anything or to get skins is all going to be pay. So essentially, the game is a demo, a free to play demo. And if you enjoy something and you want to play more of it, you can pay. And I think that's totally cool.
I like that because you've got the demo so people can try it, they can play it, and if that's all they want, that's all they want. You've got
But
the
you,
online option free so they can play with other friends for a while, and if they want the rest of it, then they can buy the rest of it.
I know that a lot of people are going to whine about that, or some. There's going to be a whiner who will find a reason to whine about that because, oh, why is it behind a paywall? The game's a demo. If you just look at it through that eye, it's a demo where you can play competitively online for free, allegedly. We'll find out when it comes out
Well,
if there's
there's
any.
what was it? Halo Infinite in the most recent iteration. Their online gameplay is free, but if you want to play the campaign, you got to buy it.
That makes sense to me because all the charts that I've ever seen indicate that most games, most people play the single player.
Yeah. So, but I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. You want to be able to just play randomly with your friends for free? Go for it. Totally an option. You
It's
want,
the best. It's the best half to be free because that's the part where, hey, play with me. It's free.
yeah, it's the best way
Hey,
to
hey,
develop
new
interest in the game.
customer. Hey, new customer, download this game. It's free. Maybe you'll like it and maybe you'll pay for it, but getting you in, that's
It's
absolutely free.
definitely the best way to get people interested in the game, and then if they really like it, then they buy it. So, yeah, no,
Like
I think that's a smart move.
when I mentioned BattleNet earlier, it's the same philosophy. Is everybody who's playing these different games is together. So maybe you make a friend in a chat room, or you've got somebody, one of your friends at school is on BattleNet, but he's playing a different game. You both have StarCraft, but he's got Warcraft and you've got Diablo. You're constantly seeing each other, talking to each other. Why not get them to get the other one too?
Yeah. The main reason, but jumping back to Metal Gear Solid, the main reason I mentioned that one is it set the trend for stealth games. Like there's some basic stealth mechanics, but I think Metal Gear Solid was literally the first one to put such a heavy reliance on stealth is the gameplay. There is some combat stuff, but the main way you progress and do anything in that was stealth functions.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they would have introduced the cones of sight, and that's something that you still see today.
Yeah,
What is it? Shogun? Sho- what's that? Not Sekiro. Sekiro's the Dark Souls one, right?
you're asking the wrong person. I don't I don't know.
She got to boot up. Hold on.
I don't have an answer for that one.
Shadow Tactics. Shadow Tactics: Blades of the Shogun by Didactic. Because did they do another game that's similar to this? That's like a western.
I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, it's a game where you go around. I think you can. What about XCOM? It's like XCOM,
Oh, okay.
similar to XCOM, but instead of all those when your turns, instead of rolling the dice and losing that 99% chance to hit, uh, you setting up stealth tactics and having your whole team do different things at the same time to try and eliminate people, but you're trying to do it quietly, and they still apply those cones of vision and even audio range, I think.
Oh, interesting.
So you've got to play your team correctly, and yeah, it's basically the 30 years of progression from the original Metal Gear.
Lots
Gives you
changed,
stuff
but a
like
lot still the same.
Shadow Tactics. And the Western one, I can't remember its name, but it's basically Tactics, the Western.
Here's another one that,
Trying,
hmm?
I'm just trying to think of other things that were like the first people to do something that everybody hopped on that boat.
How about horror survival?
That's more dudes thing.
Well, he I
I'd
once
say
I saw this, I realized this was a fact, but it
the
didn't.
first game that I would think of horror survival to make it like a meme to make more people want to make more would be that Slender Man game.
I don't know that one.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a really low quality like slap together game where you go through these woods and there's a building that's like a box and you have to find pieces of paper, like 5 or 10 pieces of paper, and the Slender Man just appears and I don't know, ends your game. And then after Slender Man came other games of similar weirdness to me, like Five Nights at Freddy's.
I'm talking about go back further, like the first Resident Evil.
I never played any of those.
I haven't, but I've played like the horror survival games and such. Um, and I think Resident Evil probably did set the bar for a horror survival game, especially if it was a shooter.
As much as I've heard about the game, I would believe that. I've never played it myself, but it
I've
is
not played the original
astoundingly
one, no.
popular.
I've not played the original Resident Evil.
I haven't played any of them. Atrocity's absolutely bonkers for them. I'm pretty sure.
Resident Evil. You see, when did the first one come out? 96.
'94 to '98 is like a golden zone for a bunch of good games coming out at the same time.
It was. Because there was just like there was no trend for how a lot of this was supposed to be, so they were just making stuff up.
That was back before games were like huge. So these game companies made what they wanted, and what they wanted to make was a good, fun game. Now you've got investors in the mix and profit margins and microtransaction.
Yeah. In this case, back then they were just trying to make it fun. That's all it was. They weren't really trying to do anything fancy with it.
I'm sure there were games before Mario that had secrets,
Um,
but the earliest game I can think of that I've played that had secrets. Did the original, like the SNES Marios, came out before Wolfenstein?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Because I knew Super Mario World for the Game Boy, they had all sorts of like things that if you didn't know about, you'd never figure it out.
See, Castle Wolfenstein was 81.
What about did Castle Wolfenstein have secrets?
I have no idea.
3D did for sure.
3D was 92.
It's pretty early.
Been a bunch of Wolfensteins. I didn't realize how many there'd been. Uh, that is a question. For one of the first game with what would you call it? Like hidden.
Just a secret. We wouldn't even call it Easter eggs. Just So I did know this pop culture of who did the first Easter egg. It was like a developer who, if he did some super special things, he would show his name in the sidebar, and that was one of those classic RPGs in the first Zelda, where you just walk from room to room in big boxes.
Okay, so the first Easter egg was in 1979 in
Yeah,
Atari's
way
game
back.
Adventure. It said you had to find the gray dot and use it to get through a side wall below and to the right of the yellow castle. Then you got to a secret room which had the creator's signature on it, said created by Warren Robinett. Oh, part of the reason he did it is because at the time the company did not credit programmers in the game packaging or materials. So since they didn't put any credit in there, he put the credit in himself.
And is now about famous for it in certain circles.
Yep. Could have gotten fired for it too, but he didn't.
That game already shipped, man. This ain't no 2010 where you can just put out an internet update, eradicate that from everybody's game. No, that shit's out there. It didn't Metal Gear Solid. I don't think any other games have done this, but didn't they do a few mind fucks? Like you had to do some super special stuff to get through the game, like plug your controller into port 2.
I've heard that in some cases where it was like, if you did weirdness, I don't know if it was, I don't think it was to get through the game, but definitely one of the random things that you had to do,
Like there was one thing like
or
that
that
where
you
if you
could do.
read the manual that actually came with the disc, it would give you the answer in a kind of cryptic way.
Of course. Oh, I have to correct myself. Um, the one in Adventure was the first to use the phrase Easter egg. It was not the first one to have it. Earliest known video game Easter egg was in Moonlander from 1973, in which the player tries to land a spaceship on the moon. If the player flies horizontally enough, they encounter a McDonald's restaurant. And if they land next to it, the astronaut will visit it instead of standing next to the ship. Random.
Interesting.
There's apparently one from Colossal Cave Adventure 1976, um, which used a special command that would allow you to teleport between two places in the game world. One of the earliest Easter eggs in a graphic video game was in Starship One from 1977.
I don't think Easter eggs are a revolutionary thing, though.
No, it's more of like their creators wanted to do something random and fun, so they did it without their boss's knowledge, and then became known for the fact
Well, what
after
other way
that.
is there to do something fun?
Yeah,
Honestly. Unless your boss is fun too, but it's possible, but not so common.
yeah. And then, of course, as things went on over time, Easter eggs just developed to include like secret levels and other stuff. Here's one I did not know that I find this actually hilarious that this is a thing. Um, in the LucasArts game Day of the Tentacle from 1993, the original uh, Maniac Mansion, which was a 1987 game, can be played in full in the other game. So it's a game within a game.
I know a few games have done that, but I think it's just the developers showing off their old high school projects.
Or to just put like jokes in there, like an inside joke literally or some other random stuff.
I always like when a game's got a little mini game inside of it.
Yeah.
Fallout 4 has it, Stardew Valley has it, several others have it. I can't remember any off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's a common thing. So, yeah, just little things like that.
Speaking of mods, World of Warcraft had a mod for it. I
Not
think
surprising.
the Bejeweled mod was like one of the early ones.
What did that do?
It was just Bejeweled that opened in the game client. That's it.
Oh,
So if you're waiting for something to happen, you could sit there and play Bejeweled while you're looking at WoW.
that's hilarious. It's like, I'm bored. I'm going to load this. You see
What
any
are
other.
other trend-setting games? Oh, I forgot to mention this. I was gonna go chronologically on the hardware because Nintendo have been big innovators. From the 64, they did a bunch of shit. They moved on to the GameCube, which I think did less fancy shit other than having a tiny quirky CD. But the Wii, the Wii and the Kinect are two technologies I think are totally awesome, and
Oh,
I don't know why we abandoned them.
um,
The
I
Wii is
think that
kind
was
of like
on
the
my list.
predecessor. The Wii is like a predecessor in a way to VR.
That whole motion sensor thing. Yeah.
I think the PlayStation's VR is visual,
Here we go. I
which
found it.
is which
There was
is kind of
actually
pioneered by the Kinect.
there
The
was
Kinect used
actually
both camera and infrared.
there was actually a game that used that to kind of pave the way for the Wii, and that was Dance Dance Revolution.
I had a DDR mat that was like a crappy plastic crinkly mat with a plastic, like the console was just the plastic chunk, the power button at the end of the mat. It was its own game. You didn't
Yep.
plug it into anything else. But it's just a mat with a processor on it. You plug it into the TV and you play DDR.
Yep. It was it was something completely different and it did kind of pave the way for eventual the motion sensor stuff. Because it's like, hey, we're gonna do this physical interactive thing. Let's make it more so. Yeah, there's probably a bunch of stuff we're not remembering. Also, bunch of stuff that's just like it kind of set the bar for stuff, and I think that there's a bunch of ones that we're missing. I don't know any others that can think of.
I probably did have them in my head, but they're not there now.
You ran out of coffee, didn't you?
Still got there's a bit there.
Not much left. See, folks, this is what happens when he runs out of coffee. The brain stops working.
The brain works fine. It's just lacking in serotonins when I'm out of coffee.
Oh, I was gonna say, do you need a uh pull a Crash Bandicoot, clear out some of the old memory to so the rest of the memory will work properly?
I need to do trash collection in my brain. There's plenty of useless knowledge up there I could do without.
Reinstate some old files, delete some newer ones, delete some of the old
Oh yeah, if
ones.
I could defragment what's in, that'd be
Oh
great.
man, that would be great. Oh, there you go. There's a technology, not necessarily gaming, but
De-
defragging.
well, it's now obsolete. What with solid state drives because they don't operate in a way that needs defragging or even
True.
is advised to do it.
Yeah, don't defrag solid states. Defrag your disk drives, not your solid states. But I think we've covered a lot of it. I kind of wish some of our British guys had been here and not partied so hard they were not functional today, which is kind of what they both did from the sound of it.
Yeah, they made tea with two tea bags instead of one, and now they just can't operate today. They partied too hard.
Yeah, that they tried to take a thing out of the Irish. It's like, what happens if we add this to the tea? Oh god!
Now, if they were Irish and partying too hard, they would have been here today.
I don't know if the Irish know the thing that's called partying too hard, unless you end
Irish
up
and
dead.
German alike, German and Russian too. Those are three verifiably cannot party too hard and have no excuse not to show up the next day.
If you claim you are one of those three, and then say you can't show up for work because you party too hard, nobody will believe you.
Or picture it didn't happen because that's an extraordinary party. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible for them to party too hard, but it's just difficult.
It's very difficult, and it's like,
It's
okay,
a
what
high
was the
bar.
end result? Um, well, apparently I'm in Mexico now. How'd you get to Mexico? I don't know.
I woke up on a cruise ship, but I also woke up 6 hours later. So I don't know how I got over here and on the cruise. Yeah, that's the kind of shit that would happen.
I've known a few stories where it's like, what happened to you? Um, well, I woke up and found out I joined the military. I don't remember it, but that's my signature on the paper. So, see you guys in a couple years.
I woke up with one last tattoo and two new wives. It must have been an adventure, but I don't remember.
Hell of an adventure. You lose the tattoo, but you get the wives. I've known that to happen. That was a running gag for Vegas. Get drunk, end up married,
Yeah, you always get a tattoo and marry a hooker.
or the stripper.
And the hangover came in and made that a more of a trope than it already was.
Right? All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap up this episode of game advancements that changed the gaming industry and advanced gaming. Like
Some of them, at least.
some of it, yeah. And then also can't party. Certain people can't not claim that partying too hard is a reason for not functioning.
I know that some people are gonna have some shit they could put in the comments to that we totally forgot. Big
Oh yeah,
oversights.
there's definitely things we forgot that somebody's gonna post or mention. We're gonna go, damn it. There were definitely some that we missed or probably obvious. Um, and then there's probably also gonna be people who will argue and go, "That's not a thing. That was not why." Like the whole
Well,
argument of PUBG versus Fortnite.
people always gonna argue, but don't argue with me because I'm only arguing with you like to make you argue, and then I'll just get bored and walk away, and you'll be there mad.
I'd rather have a debate over an argument because then we can trade information or discussion more accurately,
I
like
would
what we
rather
did with
have one,
this.
but some people aren't having that. They're just
It was like,
rabble, 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 as they say.
Yep. Let's have a discussion. Which is why, like, when I brought up Fortnite, you were like, eh. And then we discussed it, and it's like, well, it does, but it doesn't. And that one can definitely
I
be
didn't
discussed and debated.
I didn't know Fortnite came out the same year as PUBG.
I didn't realize that
I,
either.
I
I
don't
think they
like I
literally
don't
came
like
out a few
the
months of each other.
I don't mind the game. It's just the culture around the game that is
Now, I will
iffy.
say that they are two similar games, but the culture between the two is very different.
Yeah, if Fortnite's art looked like PUBG's and vice versa, the player bases would look different, the culture would be different. But I think when soup to nuts, as they say, Fortnite is the smoother experience and the
It
more
is.
solid game.
It is. But it
But
is definitely the screwier game.
I don't know
Because
if
there's
any of
some
them
screwball weird shit you can do in that game.
I wouldn't arguably call either of them pioneers, but they are the firsts or among the firsts to have that mass multiplayer free for all
I don't
or
know.
team
I don't know if pioneer
be
is the right term, but definitely trendsetter. I think might be one.
that's fair. They did it well enough and advertised well enough to get a player base big enough to become a thing.
Yes, they definitely did. But again, that's one of those we can discuss and go back and forth on that one for a little bit. But they did kind of set the trend. All right. Well, I think this is going to be it for us for now. And then it's just going to be we will check y'all out. Tune in next time for the next episode.
Peace out, everybody.
Bye.